Welcome back to Nightmare Logic, the podcast where our oldest memories are our darkest fears. We're your hosts, Christopher Smith,
Peter Sawyer,
and Taffeta Darling.
And today, take a trip with us down Nightmare Lane where we discuss our earliest memories of our horror obsession.
That wasn't bad, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That was good.
All right, well, it's been a while since we saw you. I'm dying to know, Taffeta, how was Comic-Con?
It was fun. It was different. The panels I did were great. They were both a full house, which was extremely sweet to have everyone turn out. But also, I had stage fright for the first time probably in like a decade. Just being on stage with like one of my favorite all-time pinup artists was a lot for my little lizard brain to process. So I did come out kind of like squeaky voice, like, oh my God, hello. But it was fine. It was good. I had the two panels and then I kind of spent the rest of the time just having fun. It was a different Comic-Con that I had envisioned. Like I still hit up all the parties, but I thought I'd be doing a little bit more work and stuff. And the people on that end, I mean, not to call them out, but I mean, they wanted free work. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not working for free. So
yeah.
It turned out to where I just had a good Comic-Con. It was great. A lot of junk as far as like food, drinks, and the consumption of pop culture. So yeah, it's good.
Nice. Yeah, your stories looked like it was fun.
It was.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really nice to return to kind of like, I call it like geek summer camp because it's just a bunch of nerds that I only see in passing. And I saw quite a few of my Texas friends in passing. And then one of my best friends from Texas, he was out here with his family. They do it every year. And so I got to hang out with him for one full night. And that was really nice to kind of have like my brother back. So it was good. It was good stuff.
Taffeta, question. For those of us who've not been there, I mean, I've been to plenty of horror conventions. I don't know if it's just getting older, but like I have sensory overload when I see like 10,000 people crammed into a space and, tons of vendors. Do you experience that at all, or how was it laid out? And, paint us a picture, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's super crowded. I mean, because at one point, like Ken and I were walking from getting something to eat back to the convention center, and like Johnny Depp was out there because they had the whole like Ebenezer Scrooge stuff. They had all the different activations and stuff, and he came out in costume and people were freaking out, and it just became this like swarm of like like clusterfuck of people, and everyone was touching me. That kind of got on my nerves. But what I tend to do is I just like I maneuver. I go like serpentine. I just kind of go in and out and stuff and try to like get away as fast as I can. But if you are someone who gets claustrophobic or doesn't like people touching you, it's a terrible experience. But if you can kind of find your own like pockets and places to go, it's actually really enjoyable. Like there was a time where like we were just kind of waiting in between panels and we stepped out back because right behind the convention center is kind of like the harbor or a harbor, like, little area for boats and stuff. And the breeze was right there. There was some trees. And so we were able to kind of like sit under the shade for like 10 minutes and just kind of relax. And that was really cool. As a Texas girl, anytime I see the beach, I just get really excited. So just even being close to the beach in San Diego was great. So there's ways to get some sort of rest and like, kind of like reprieve from everything.
Right.
But once you're on the floor, I mean, it's literally just a sea of faces. And that can be very overwhelming. I think Ken got frustrated a few times because it's not for him. But for me, like that's my jam is Artist Alley and everything else. So I maneuver and go through it. But this time it was a little easier, I guess, because it was less of time on the floor.
Nice.
Gotcha.
It's really fun to see all the news come out of it in real time. All the new trailers and sample footage and posters or announcements or whatever.
The whole Doom stuff where they kept switching out the witch, the Laverian witch, like every day in the different colors. And then I think Saturday they finally brought out Doom because they kind of had Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday they were teasing all the witches. And then they finally brought out Doom with one of the witches, and I was like, oh, that's pretty badass.
Is this like Doom, like the video game Doom?
Oh, Doomsday for the new Avengers movie.
Sorry. Okay.
The big the Hall H panel out there where they were announcing everybody, and then they announced, of course, Ghost Rider, and they announced a new Black Panther. So that stuff was really cool. And then they also announced the Jason Aaron, one of my clients, like he's taken on the new Indiana Jones comic. So, there was definitely some good news that came out of there, some stuff that I'm really interested in and was excited to see and hear about.
Cool. Who are the witches?
We don't know yet. That's kind of the mystery. Like, I think it's either probably going to be like Scarlet Witch, or maybe it's going to be Agatha.
Oh, this is like Marvel stuff.
Yeah, it's the Doom Witches. Like, Laverian Witches. Sorry.
Gotcha. No
I'm still talking about Doomsday.
Copy that.
I assume when I say Doom, people automatically assume Dr. Doom.
I wasn't sure if you were talking Dune or Doom, so I'm like,
Doom.
Way out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't really see a lot of Dune stuff. Mainly just the Dr. Doom, Doomsday activations that they had. So I think it's either going to be Agatha or maybe the Scarlet Witch, but we don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, it's a lot of comic books seem to be having a moment this summer. I mean, the comic book movies, so just, this weekend Spider-Man came out and is like fucking blowing the doors off the box office. It's crazy. So, I guess it's still a popular property.
I don't
even
think
if Taffeta doesn't read it.
I don't think it'll ever stop the comic book thing. Like,
probably not.
They'll just draw from a different type of comic book if you keep getting superhero fatigue or something.
Right, until they stop prioritizing IP from other places. Yeah, there's always going to be comic book movies made for sure. I think they're slowing down the cadence though, and that's sort of I think that's helpful. I think it was just too many movies in a year,
Yeah. I think with Ghost Rider coming out, I think that's going to open up a whole new era, because right now we don't have enough. We've had just a little bit of the monsters and a little bit of the horror from Marvel, but with Ghost Rider coming in, that's going to take a whole new different shape. Right now we've got the Fantastic Four, which gives us like the sci-fi element and kind of the whimsy of space, but with Ghost Rider, that's going to give us more horror, and that's going to give us more like the esoteric side of Marvel that we've kind of been missing. So I'm stoked for that.
Yeah, me too. He was always one of my favorite Marvel characters for sure. He was just cool. He's like a biker, like glowing, fiery head with a chain whip. I mean, yes.
Yeah, he's iconic, and it's neat to see him get his like due and everything.
Yeah, right on. Cool. So, anything new with you, Peter? You do anything cool?
No, I've Taffeta brought up the beach, so I'm a happy boy. I've been able to go to the beach the last 2 weekends. It's been kind of a disappointing summer, and if I don't go to the beach, I'm just like, why am I in Southern California? But yeah, the summer's like that's what I live for when summer hits. So I was stoked on that.
Last weekend I actually shot something for the county supervisors on the beach. There's like a organization like the Black Surfers Collective, and so basically I just filmed. They teach basically kids from like South Central how to like surf and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, yeah, so it was really cool to I was filming, but it was nice to be out on the beach, and like it was a perfect day and everything. It was great.
It's especially when it's like super hot, not in the beach. When you get to the beach, it's like 10 degrees cooler. There's like the coastal waves or wind breezes. So it's great. It's you feel like you're in Southern California. Imagine that. So Taffeta, you had recommended Cape Fear, so I watched that. Absolutely loved it. I think is made for someone like me, because I'm always hesitant of remakes, reboots, but they took some wild swings with this, and it was very interesting how it unfolded. I think I actually like it more than Widow's Bay, which is probably sacrilegious to people who watch Apple series. But I will say, and I liked Widow's Bay, but watching Cape Fear, I'm like, it's all fluid. The storylines overlap in such ways that it made Widow's Bay seem a little more formulaic with like the monster of the week kind of thing. But yeah, the way they retooled the story in Cape Fear is pretty fascinating. And as you said, it's very psychological, and it has like pretty strong horror beats, and it has fun cameos. Like some of the actors I didn't expect to be in there. One of them I think was the woman who played Deborah Logan in The Taking of Deborah Logan, and she came across how I would want her in this. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed Cape Fear. All the actors were solid, and it'll throw you through some loops. And I almost want to say, like, I think Euphoria kind of changed the landscape a little bit, because it had some of that, with the kids.
Yeah.
The way certain things are kind of weaponized, but it's definitely not your grandfather's Cape Fear, and it's not even. And the crazy thing too is Steven Spielberg was a producer on this, executive producer, and this feels like way too edgy for anything he's done in a very long time. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And Martin Scorsese is a producer, executive as well, and he loves this kind of stuff. So yeah, I was very happy with that. And what do you guys know about hydrophobia?
Being scared of water.
But do you know what that's called today? Because I learned this.
No.
Rabies. That's like apparently.
Well, that's a symptom of rabies, right?
Yeah. So like the reason I know this is because I watched Primate, and it kind of clears that up right out the gates. And I really enjoyed Primate. Like it's brutal, self-contained in this house for these kids and a chimp who has rabies, and those are scary, man.
Yeah.
And the director,
rabies is a scary illness. When you read about it, the progression, it's like, oh, you never want to get that. That's awful.
No, it's a ticking clock. You really have to get seen.
And you basically go mad and get enraged, and you know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Well, and chimps are like no joke too, man. You don't want to get in their way. You don't want to be around them.
Hell no.
They're one of the scariest mammals, right? And this was I didn't realize this was done by Johannes Roberts, who he did Strangers Pray at Night, The Other Side of the Door, 47 Meters Down, and he did the like Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is one of the better ones. And he's like a student of John Carpenter, so like the score also was like John Carpenter meets Goblin, and it's one of these let's see who survives this kind of situation, but I thought it hit all the right beats and was, it wasn't one of these hype movies, so I had no expectations, but it
you got a lot of great reactions and reviews and things when it dropped earlier this year. I was sort of interested in it, but I feel like I don't know what it is, but something about monkeys. Like,
I think like it. You're just like, why do I want to see this? But I usually enjoy these types of movies when I see it.
Yeah.
Like there's a crazy batshit one from the '80s called Primal Rage. It's like that was a lot of fun. I mean, when I watched Nope, I really loved the chimp stuff. I was like, that's terrifying. So
I think maybe that's it. Is like it just like brought me back to Nope, and I was like, I've seen that or something. Maybe that was the reason I didn't feel like I wasn't against seeing it. I didn't like jump to see it. Yeah,
this isn't really a spoiler as much as it's kind of giving you a little. I mean, a maybe very very minor one is like the chimp is like very intelligent. That's why they have this pet. So
like she's a scientist or something, kind of like
sort of. Yeah. I don't want to get too far into it, but yeah. So the chimp utilizes its intelligence, which is kind of great. Like if you see Deep Blue Sea and it's like the smartest sharks.
I love that movie so much. Like it's a guilty pleasure, and I'm not even guilty about it. If it's on, I'm watching Deep Blue Sea. I'm glad you brought up Primate.
So yeah, and it's on Amazon Prime. So if you have that, you can just check it out.
Amazon Primate.
Primate.
I added it to my queue because when it came out, like Jim went to see it, our buddy Jim, and he was like, "Oh my God, you have to go see it." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "No, I didn't expect it to be like it was."
Right.
And so I've been waiting for it to drop, and I saw that it did, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to check that out."
All right, I'm going to check it out too.
It's like as good as one of those types of movies can be.
Yeah,
like, it's cool.
I'm not expecting riveting.
The director said it was kind of like he based this sort of on Cujo, but he's like, chimps are way scarier to me than dogs because they're capable of a lot more and they're strong. And
I mean, have you seen their teeth? They have like massive fangs. They're crazy.
And I think they're like malicious when they attack people. They want to, just destroy you and like make it hurt.
Yeah, there's no empathy or mercy with chimps.
And there's
like real life story, a woman who had a bunch of them and they like ripped her face off entirely.
I remember that.
I mean, it's terrifying. And I think he does it smartly. Like I co-sign on this movie. I enjoyed it.
Nice. Excellent. I should have watched that instead of Do Not Enter, which I wound up actually watching because that dropped on Amazon. I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
Well, I haven't really seen any good horrors this week, but I've been watching House of the Dragon, which
nice.
I imagine everybody is. So there's nothing new there for for the audience or anybody. But it's good. It's good. And then I also checked out. I've been watching Foundation, the first season slowly over the last like few months, and it's a little tricky because I I'm trying to get my fiance to like watch things like the kind of stuff we talk about. She doesn't really like too much, so it's like
Right.
tricky to
Yeah.
find a window where I can watch or like convince her to watch something. And she's been watching Foundation with me. She doesn't like it as much as I do, I don't think. But in addition to being a horror nerd, I'm a sci-fi nerd and a fantasy nerd. So
What's the premise of
Yeah.
Foundation?
it's based on a series of short stories that Isaac Asimov wrote starting in the 50s, I think. And if you're not familiar, he's one of the like godfathers of sci-fi, modern sci-fi, and he does they're like really epic stories. So Foundation is basically, if I'm not mistaken, each season is like 1,000 years apart from each other. I'm only on the first season, so I don't really know how they handle
Okay.
that. But like it's about how this mathematician essentially, this is all revealed in the first episode, so it's not really a big spoiler. But this famous mathematician kind of sees in this probability. His expertise is in probability, and the numbers tell him that the big empire that's been reigning for like thousands of years is going to fall, and they can't stop it. But what they can do is kind of like set aside a store of information so they can rebuild society faster. And it's kind of about that. I'll
Oh,
just leave it
okay.
there.
Gotcha.
Cool.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Definitely
it's
see
cool.
that.
It's really epic. Like the scale is like it's a big. The kind of it's like high sci-fi. I don't know what they call it. They call it high fantasy on the fantasy side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's like sort of epic time frames. The universe is massive, and it's more about kind of the ideas and the thought behind it. It's not like action at all, really. There are some like kind of actiony moments and stuff, but like it's really it's a little more intellectual, I guess, in that regard.
Cool. And I know people who see it, and I'm definitely one to watch it. But I'm kind of like stuck between Silo and then the new Ted Lasso and then Widow's Bay and then a
I
bunch of
know.
other stuff that's coming out. But I eventually will get to the Foundation.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, I hear you. There's so many things that I want to watch right now. It's like ridiculous.
Too much content, man.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys quickly. I finally watched the Long Walk.
Mm.
It's based off of like Stephen King's like first novel where he was under Richard Bachman, I think.
Right.
But the main guy in it, David Johnson, he was the one that was announced as the new Black Panther
Right.
during San Diego Comic-Con. And I remember watching The Long Walk and thinking, wow, this is actually really good. It's simplistic, but it's so brutal,
Yeah.
especially with Mark Hamill being like, the main general behind it all and kind of leading the charge with like kind of the creep factor. But David Johnson, incredible actor. Even with the ending changed and a little bit of the stuff that changed, it's still an incredible movie. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. It's just kind of like a dystopian future where sort of like, they pick 50 people and these guys have to like walk until like they all essentially die. And if you stop for more than 30 seconds, you get like 3 warnings and then they kill you. Like you have to keep walking until like the last person stands. So it's pretty hardcore to see that happen for a bunch of youths. But I was super impressed with David Johnson. And then when they announced him, I was like, fuck yeah, he's going to be a great T'Challa.
Yeah, he was.
So anyways.
He was great in that. I'd been looking forward for The Long Walk for years because it was always kind of in development hell and never came out. And then when I found out it was like the guy from Hunger Games, I was like, oh no, this better not be like teenage. But he does do dystopian, so I was happy to see he did Stephen King right.
Yeah.
And the lead, the other main character was Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid, and I thought he was also pretty
Francis
good.
Hoffman.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought they did a great job with it. And I remember Christopher and I were talking about it, and I think you were like, I don't want to see it because of what's going on in politics. I'm like, I want to see it because it'll make this not seem as bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to see it. I do want to see it. It's not like high on my list. I mean, it's just every week, like new movies come out that I'm like, I want to see that. And then it just gets pushed further and further down, but I probably will see it.
The camaraderie in it and the it's not exactly a quest because it's just like don't stop walking, but it kind of reminded me of Stand By Me too.
I just say, I mean, again, it's early Stephen King, so it does have that like that heart of, you know, like the Losers Club or the Lovers Club, you know, like coming together to kind of like cheer each other on for the best that they can. I mean, there's still a few like strays who kind of do their own thing, but by the end, like you are really hoping that they all make it together. And it's not like, I don't think it's a huge spoiler, but there's a point where they actually try to get it to where they can all walk the same pace because they all have like, you know, miles per hour, like speedometers, you know, on their legs. So if anyone drops below, that's how they determine like, you know, who actually gets killed. Even if there's 3 left and they are timing it perfectly, there's still someone who's just a tad like millisecond slow that's going to die. So just all of the details and everything of it being like a military police state and the tension was just, I think that was a horror for me. Like the killings are fucking brutal. Like, I mean, there's no hold. They're dark. It's gory as fuck.
It's
so sad.
I love a good gore killing, I tell you.
It's so gory, intense, and sad. And at the end, you're just like, oh, I don't feel any sort of relief.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it does the trick. It's also like, I'm wondering what other Stephen King, like classic Stephen King stories are left for movies. I'm sure there are, but like that was like the last one on my list to finally see the light of day.
He's got to write more.
Well, he's still right. He's a prolific dude, man. Even these days, he has a bunch of books I've never heard of because I just haven't kept up.
Right. Yeah. Well, cool. So, anyone have a topic that they would like to discuss today?
Me.
Oh, Peter, I choose you.
Okay. So every street has an Elm Street. But it seems like we got a couple studios who also do.
Wait, real quick before you move on, which I know you're going to talk about, it's going to be awesome. But do you know there's actually a true crime show called Murder on Elm Street, and it's like all these murders that take place on different Elm Streets across the country?
No, are they copycat? Like,
no, they're just like that's just
a common.
You know, it's
street.
just like some crappy ID series, but like they just happen to be more than one murder that takes place on Elm Street, and they made a whole series about it.
Right. No, I did not know that, but that is kind of funny too. I mean, not to the victims and whatnot, but just like, of course, how could there not be this? But this whole thing just makes me laugh. Yeah. So basically, Christopher, you're the one that always is like on top of the Paramount merger, right? Mm-hmm. But because Paramount and Warner Brothers deal is on pause, each of those studios are making their own Nightmare on Elm Street. And this can happen because Warner Brother owns New Line Cinema, which still retain the rights to the international rights. So it's kind of messy, but hilarious. I know Warner Brothers is in talks with Lee Cronin to write, produce, and direct it. And it sounds like Paramount thought they were fine, but because there's been such a holdup, Warner Brothers is just making moves. And if that merger goes through, it's like, okay, they're the same studio, so it's kind of weird. But best case scenario, you get competition that forces both studios to actually make great Elm Street movies, and fans get to decide the best. Yeah. But on the other hand, they could just be racing to get the first one out, and it could get sloppy, and we end up with 2 things that no one wants. People generally,
or they merge and they decide to write one off for the tax write-off and then only release one of them.
That's true too. That's another. But like people were not happy with the remake. I mean, it was fine, but kind of forgettable, I thought. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how this goes, just because it's so absurd.
It's interesting. It's also like a really good example of why the merger is actually a bad thing. For anybody who needs an example, but. You know, when you have 2 different studios, you get 2 Nightmare on Elm Street ones, right? And one, presumably they have competition to make them better. But if they merge, then all of a sudden, maybe they shelve one. Maybe they're both. I mean, the both bad thing could be like you're saying.
Well, and everyone's up in arms about who the next Freddy Krueger is, because you know they only know him as Robert Englund, the Jackie Earl. I'm going to say his name wrong.
Yeah.
Like he's a great actor, but whoever's Freddy Krueger's living in Robert Englund's shadow. So it's how do you, you're not going to make everyone happy with this.
No. But there's some good options. I mean, you know who would be great is who's the Skarsgård, the young one that was in like the new Crow remake?
Bill
Alexander.
Bill Skarsgård, that guy.
Bill.
I feel like he would be a good Freddy Krueger.
Freddy was.
They're like the new Baldwin brothers. There's too many of them.
I mean, fuck it. They should just make Freddy Krueger a woman and piss everyone off. But like, that would be an interesting choice.
That'd be
amazing.
awesome.
I'd be for it.
I'd watch
make
that.
It Nancy. Make Nancy somehow
like
be the.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll come
Krueger.
up with some really wild idea that people will get a kick out of. But here we are. Welcome to 2026. What do you guys got? I got one more, but I can hold it.
I think the only one that I'm kind of curious. There's a couple I'm curious about. The first one is Victorian Psycho. It's kind of the source material is like from last year. It's a book. It's kind of a tribute and a parody, but not a full parody, based off like American Psycho. Essentially, kind of same thing. Like this like proper girl, she becomes like a new governess for this like family and stuff. But she's also batshit crazy, and it's Micah Monroe, who I think is absolutely adorable, and I think she's kind of that kid's going places. But I don't know. I love a Victorian gothic horror movie thriller. I love Crimson Curse, and this thing is kind of giving me like Crimson Curse vibes
or Crimson
and like
Ghost.
Crimson Curse, right?
Were you talking about the Del Toro movie?
Crimson. No, just Crimson.
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
Crimson Curse is an album. I'm thinking Crimson is just the one
Crimson
with Tom
Peak,
Hiddleston.
Crimson Peak.
Yes.
Jesus, that's what I was.
Yes.
Crimson out. Okay.
We'll eventually get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just really like a good gothic horror,
Me
and
too.
I think if you introduce like a nanny as the psychotic killer, I don't know, that appeals to me in its own way. And then also Wicker, which isn't like Wicker Man, but the movie Wicker.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that
I saw
trailer?
the trailer.
It looks cool.
That's another Skarsgård. And I like that their tagline is "A hard man is good to find," and that just fucking sent me, and I was like, I need
I
this
didn't
shirt.
see that.
If I get invited to any of these presses and there are hats or shirts, I just need the shirt that says "Hard man is good to find." And I love the fact that it's based on like, kind of this like, kind of old fable, to where it's a take on Pinocchio instead of, Giuseppe wanted like a little boy. This lady wants a man, she wants a husband, and she's from what I can get, she's criticized about not having one. So she goes to see Peter Dinklage's character, who is clearly the wizard of the town, and has him make her a rock hard man out of wicker, to where he does his own weird shit during the day, and at night he just comes back to fuck her. So I'm in.
So do you guys think she's gonna birth a tree? She's gonna give birth to a tree, right?
I really hope so. Was it Olivia Colman? I think is the
Olivia
actress
Colman,
in there, who I think
incredible.
is also incredible. So I don't know. This just looks like a weird, dark drama, not so much horror, but I think the horror aspect in there is still like with the esoteric mystic shit that this guy has got to conjure up a man made of wicker. So
I actually sent that trailer. As soon as I saw it, I sent it to Heather, and I was like, this seems like something you'd be into.
And it's Weta. They're doing like all the special effects, who I absolutely love, which is why the Wicker Man or Wicker penis, I don't know where we're going with this, I believe it's gonna look really good.
Well, you're hoping at any rate.
Yeah,
a girl can dream. No, that looks interesting. Actually, both of those look real interesting. I like the trailer of Victorian Psycho, like randomly using like it sounds like a 90s hardcore, like New York hardcore band in the trailer, which normally I'm like not into period pieces using like, electric guitars and stuff, but for some reason it just worked really well in that trailer, and I was like, all right, here's a counter example. But
it feels like it's not taking itself seriously when you give me that, and I'm like, cool, I know exactly what I'm going into this movie for. It's gonna be just batshit ridiculous, and I'm in. Let's see if it stands the test of time. I wonder if the actual movie will have that kind of music in it, or if it's just for the trailer or what.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do that for sure.
Yeah.
Just perfect song for a trailer.
So one of the things I wanted to chat a little bit about was another trailer for a movie called Bloodshine. Are you guys aware of this one coming out?
No.
Tell us.
It's like a folk horror, seemingly. From what I've been able to like glean from the internet and the trailer, basically this guy gets kind of captured or kidnapped or whatever, and they're, I guess, trying to maybe convert him to some kind of like folk religion, but it's kind of done through torture, it seems like. And there's this woman who's this kind of the person he interacts with, but it seems like a bigger kind of cult or something. Um, but it's great, and it has some familiar faces in it, including Emily Bennett from Shelby Oaks, David Call from Insidious: The Red Door, Brendan Sexton from Russian Doll, and Larry Fessenden from Maxine, and then Toby Poser from Hellbender and all of the the movies that family does.
Right.
So anyways, but I thought, Peter, you'd probably be interested because of the Larry Fessenden connection. So
my guess is it's probably filmed in upstate New York because that's where
it is.
Yeah.
I think it looks like it at any rate. And he's not like, I don't think he's a star. In fact, I think he might be one of the cult members, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
But anyways, it looks pretty dope. I don't know if it has a release date yet or not. I was trying to find out, but I don't know. Keep your eye out.
I have one, and I'm not going to tell you anything about the trailer except to go watch it. Do you guys heard of Hope?
No.
Director of The Wailing, and it looks like it'll probably be the blockbuster genre movie of the year. It's not strictly horror. It's like action, I'm assuming science fiction, and I think it has a lot of like fun surprises. But it's worth looking at the trailer. I'll just leave it at that.
Cool.
Okay.
Look at that when we get off. Right on.
I'll tell you my other piece of news, just because it's like more of a mindfuck to me than the Lost Boys musical. Now we have one coming out for The Warriors. This is Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is the creator behind Hamilton.
Oh, it's like a musical.
Yeah, and it's playwright and I guess playwright actress Isa Davis. I think I'm saying that right. But they like made an album that was produced by Nas about the Warriors, and you can listen to it because it's out. So they've now taken steps to make it a Broadway play.
That's interesting. That's hip hop. I mean, it's a unique take. I don't know if it fits with the original IP, but
so the Warriors is kind of I'm curious about this because if it's based off a movie, I don't know if it's so much going to be for me. Like, but I haven't read the Saul Uric novel that the movie's based on, nor Anabasis, which is the ancient Greek work that the whole Warriors thing is true to. But like, if you go back to like the early 2000s or 2005, Rockstar Games made a Warriors video game, and I absolutely loved it because it really honored the spirit of the movie, and it had the actors doing the voiceover. And the Warriors is not a very like, it's oddly progressive. Like Walter Hill actually wanted like an all black gang, but the studios are like, no, you need to make it biracial and all this stuff. So it's kind of progressive in that way, but it's like so not politically correct. Like half the shit that comes out of Ajax's mouth is not something people want to hear today. But the Rockstar video kind of leaned into that a little bit. And they had like side quests where it's like, I mean, first of all, in the video game, like as you can see, I'm glowing about this. If you wanted life, there was a drug called the Flash, and you just huff it, and that's how you got strength again. And it was like vandalizing shit, and it had the blackout of 77 in New York, and they had these side quests. It's like King of the Hill on top of a roof where you throw other people off of it. And the music they added was like Amy Stewart's disco banger, Knock on Wood, and Fear, I Love Living in the City. So that like stuff really suits the place and the time and everything about it. I mean, they had a game called Have Mercy. The actress, the character in The Warriors, the lead actress was named Mercy that tags along with them. And it's just like Have Mercy is capture the flag with a chick, and you're just like dragging her across to your side of the turf and while trying to get beat up. So it has like all this stuff, and I just don't know if that's going to be translated into a play where, all right, we're going to time out, and now we're going to have like a song about character development, and we're going to dance fight like in Cobra Kai or something. But, you know, maybe there is the Venn diagram of Warriors fans that also love show tunes. I don't know. It just seems like an odd choice because Warriors is total survive the night, and character development is such a core part of like musicals. right? Like it's about the human condition, and
Totally. I mean, they do seem like competing, aesthetics. It's like musicals, it can't help but feel a little bit uh saccharine, or a little like
sanitized.
earnest, and then when you got like any kind of a thriller is like a little bit more grounded, I guess,
Well,
by the nature of it.
Musicals, they also have West Side Story, which is like the gang version of Romeo and Juliet. So I'm like, what are they gonna do? It's kind of a strange one. I mean, maybe they'll do something amazing with it.
Well, there's a lot of theater that can be really edgy, or is really edgy rather. But the Lin-Manuel Miranda or Lin-Manuel, God, screwing up his name, Lin-Manuel Miranda connection to me like gives me pause because I don't know that his sensibility would go that direction. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's like the Lost Boys thing where I'm sure they're like diehard fans. But I was thinking back to the Lost Boys one, and I'm like, the music of that is a huge part of the DNA, and somewhat same with the Warriors, that theme. And when you change that, you're not going to improve that because it's already kind of grandfathered in with fans. Like no matter who's doing it, it's a very steep thing to improve on. But I mean, maybe they make their own beast and it's cool. But it just struck me as odd because now it's like, okay, they're going to do every cult movie as a musical, like, and I'm like, just make your own thing. And if it's really good, it'll be a cool movie, right? Let's do the inverse. But I know it's easier to get funding with IP, right? We're talking about that.
Right.
But yeah, that's just wild. Yeah. Warriors musical coming in 2027.
Pass.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to maybe bring up, just briefly, it's a really short conversation, I think, but that we've seen a lot more about the new Resident Evil coming out from Zach Kreger, and just a lot more grumbling about how it's not canon. But I actually think the trailers look pretty great, and I think we got a new one right during Comic-Con, and it looks awesome. I don't know. Wait, what do you guys think?
I agree. This is a movie that I'd love to see. Like I'm happy.
Yeah, I like the franchise.
Yeah,
going this route. I saw something that people were, I think because the first trailer didn't show this, is like the new trailer shows that there's some like iPhone in it. So people are like, oh shit, it's not from the 90s. It's modern. And Zach was kind of addressing it. I mean, it's like they make good movies like this that do have cell phones. So I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, to me, that's like, I think they're looking for reasons to be
haters.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, look, if the movie's good, the movie's good, right? Like, I mean, I guess like I could see if you are really invested in that world and it's not, it's disappointing, but that doesn't mean it's still a bad movie.
Well, most of the Resident Evil movies are not great. So like the bar is very low. And if you love the game, you'll recognize that the movies, besides the first one and the like Welcome to Raccoon City, are just crazy action stunt things with zombies. They're not really like you're entering a dark room and there's, you don't know what's going to get you kind of thing.
Right.
So like I'm all for what Zach's doing.
Yeah.
I think it'll be cool.
Totally. Cool. Taff, do you have anything else you want to chat about, or?
No, that was pretty much all. Well, I saw Do Not Enter, and I do not recommend, and that's pretty much
Do not enter.
It was all over the place. Like I really like, like The Descent and The Cave. I like these movies where like these touristy people, they go do some shit they're not supposed to and they get cursed and the fucking land fucks them up. I'm like, yeah, that's what you get.
That's right.
And I thought that's what I was going into with Do Not Enter, which is essentially just like these like trying to be social media influencers, looking for underground locations and like, going to different places that are off limits that they shouldn't be. And eventually they stumble into one where like they really shouldn't have been into. They get kind of trapped and held hostage, and then, fucked up shit happens. And then you're like, oh, okay, it's going this route. But then at the end, it gives you this really weird, like, what twist? Kind of like Barbarian, but not in a good way.
Right.
To where you're like, where the hell did this come from? And then it ends. And I was like, aha, okay. So that's my impression of Do Not Enter without giving it away. I mean, there's definitely some gore spots in it. It's shot very dark to where even with my lights off, I still could not see, and that irritated the crap out of me with its production. It felt like it was just very slow, and I just couldn't see anything. And it's like, how am I gonna know what's getting me, like where the boogeyman, where the jump scare is, if it's all just dark?
Totally.
So
the key to that is like you can make things dark if there are like enough contrast in the frame. So if you have bright spots, other things can be dark. But what I feel like a lot of days now, they just take the whole thing and make it dark, and you're like, I have nothing for my eye to like recognize or
I
settle
couldn't
on.
focus. Yeah.
It's it has been annoying. I agree with you on that. But also Peter and I learned from doing Last Call, just it can be tricky to figure out what that level of black is because every screen looks different, you know? So some screens you get it on it and it like looks like daylight, you know, and in other screens you get it on, you're like, I can't see a thing, you know?
That was mine. Yeah, I couldn't see anything. So I think that also probably like frustrated me to the point where I was like, I'm not going to watch this again. But I mean, if you like sci-fi movies that are, you know, maybe like a 2.5, check it out if you're bored one day.
2.5. That's below Peter's threshold. You won't be watching it.
No, I mean, I looked at it and I was like, the title's intriguing, and I think I saw the IMDb score. I was like, that's a maybe.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones I got back last night and I was tired and I was like, all right, I don't think this is going to take enough concentration that I'm going to, you know, have to be really involved in. And I wasn't. So.
Right. All right. So we got a number of releases coming up in the next 2 weeks. Nothing crazy, but I just thought I'd go through them real quick. The first one, which is coming out on August 7th, a week from today that we're recording, is Ice Cream Man, which we have talked about before here. And I believe it's derived from a comic. Is that right, Taffeta?
I haven't figured it out yet. I honestly don't believe it is.
Okay.
I think they're trying to skirt on the cake, but I have not seen Maxwell Prince's name anywhere on that. So I don't think it is.
Okay, cool. So
I don't know.
A little bit about the Ice Cream Man. It's actually just Ice Cream Man, my bad. It's directed and written by Eli Roth, and co-written with Noah Belson. And it stars Eli Roth, Ari Millen, and Darren Baker. I guess I didn't realize Eli Roth was an actor. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, he was in
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious Bastards. Yeah.
I mean, he was in
he's done some other
cameo
stuff too, but that's the main one.
Cabin Fever. He's in that as well.
Oh yeah. Okay, I totally.
That was the first exposure to him.
Now. Yeah. He's a good character actor. Actually, now that I connecting the face with the name, but he's directed other horror movies though too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. He has his own special, like on Shudder. It's like the 50th or 100th like best horror movies. He had his own series on.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's probably why I got confused. I didn't realize he did both so prolifically.
You guys want to hear a fun Eli Roth story?
Yeah, lay on.
So Eli Roth was at some point David Lynch's like assistant or worked for him in some capacity. So the story with Cabin Fever is kind of interesting because this is what I had heard was that Eli Roth got a hold of all of David Lynch's contacts after he wrote Cabin Fever, and he sent it out to all email blasts to all these people that he otherwise wouldn't have info on. And he's like, hey, I wrote this script. David Lynch is producing it. It's called Cabin Fever. Check it out. So of course everyone's like reading Cabin Fever and like now has an interest in this. And so it gets back to David Lynch. And most people would be like, all right, he's fucking fired, right? But David Lynch was like, he's just being Eli. I wish him the best, but I'm not going to produce it. And that was enough to get it off the ground.
Wow.
Which is wild because that's such a risky move, right? To do something like that.
He shot a shot. But, he probably knew him well enough to kind of, it was probably more of an educated gamble that he maybe could get away with it.
Right. But still, it's just like, holy hell. It paid off for him.
Yeah, that's pretty ballsy. I guess it's like any way you can break in, I suppose. So that comes out on August 7th. And the short premise I'll give you is an idyllic summer town descends into madness when an ice cream man serves kids sweet delights with horrifying results. They dropped a new trailer during Comic-Con, which makes it look even more like kind of batshit crazy, for lack of a better term. But it's very bright and colorful. And it features a lot of sadistic kids with stuff on their mouth. So I mean, I like it's got to be for somebody. Are you guys
Oh, I'm
interested?
in. I'm definitely
Yeah,
in. Like,
cool.
I want to check it out. Because at first I really did think it was going to be tied to the book because the book is heavily colorful and the juxtaposition of it. It's so bright and it's so cheery and everyone's smiling, but all at the same time, it's an anthology of all this horrible shit happening. So I'm totally into that. I like the brightly colored but the dark themes for sure.
Though, yeah, you know, but check out if you haven't watched the new trailer for either you and Peter Taffeta or anyone listening. It's like really gory and crazy. Like I have interest in it for sure. So the following week, which is the 14th, we are getting not a lot of horror films, but The End of Oak Street is coming out, which for those not familiar is it seems like the premise is this neighborhood gets kind of like transported back into like the dinosaur era, you know, but it's follows like the families of this neighborhood. So you are kind of like learning about it as they are. So it looks pretty interesting. More of a sci-fi thriller. I don't know. Is that what you want to call it? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. That looks good.
Yeah.
It looks like it's very much like a lost in time, but modern time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's directed by David Robert Mitchell, also written by David Robert Mitchell, and it stars Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor, and Maisie Stella. So, you know, it's got a budget behind it. We know that much. I believe, is this a Netflix film? Or are they doing...
They're doing a movie called The Last House.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Okay.
They're two different things.
Yeah. I was like surprised that this would be released in theaters if it was. So check that out. And then there is a horror film coming out on the 14th as well called Terrestrial, which seems to have kind of like mixed reviews, but it seems interesting. It's a kind of a sci-fi horror, it looks like. And the premise is during a weekend reunion, a rising sci-fi author welcomes 3 college friends to his home, but strange events begin to blur the lines between reality and imagination. And it kind of looks like it's from the trailer, which you can also go check out. It's a teaser, so there's not a lot there, but it kind of looks like this guy's prepping the way for this like alien invasion, and you know he's kind of selling it as this like kind of like transcendent experience to join them, but like actually it's kind of seems horrific. So, anyways, it looks cool. Check it out. And that stars Jamie Fowler, James Morosini, and Pauline Chalamet. I'm sorry, I butchered that. I'm not. Do you guys know how to say that?
I'm not. I don't. I'd have to see a picture of the person to know who it is, but a lot of names are not easy to pronounce. People, I will say that.
Weird. A lot of actors' names I've noticed.
Yeah, they got those funky names. No offense to any of them, but it's not just like Mark Warner or something. You know. It's like it's some fancy. You know, I get it, but no, you probably got it right.
So we're going to move into, I guess, our main kind of topic of discussion then. And I think this is going to be a fun one. At least you guys will get to know a little bit more about your hosts and kind of like what brought us to where we are. Like why we made the decisions we did in life and ended up talking to you about horror movies all the time. So basically, Tavin had the great idea for us to kind of delve a little bit into our earliest memories of horror and the horror genre and exposure to it, and kind of like what that was like and how we ended up falling in love with it. Is that correct, Taffeta?
Yeah. I think it's neat that, you know, because like you guys actually produce and you direct and you work in actual, like, you know, horror movies, you know, and I read a lot of horror comics, but it's not something that just kind of came about like randomly. It's something that I feel like kind of is ingrained into us. And for me, it started as a very young person. I was really into the R.L. Stine movement. I loved Goosebumps. I loved Fear Street. But I remember being like, I think 8 or 9 years old and watching Legend for the first time. And although that wasn't horror, seeing darkness like triggered a lot into me. And I was like, I think I like Satan. Okay.
Dude, you're so right. I was actually going to bring up Legend too, because that's similar to me. Yeah.
It's just one of those things. And I was by myself. It was the first time I'd actually stayed home by myself. And I remember putting on HBO, and it was like kind of creepy and dark. And it was, I want to say I came into it when Dark Lily was like strolling along the path. And I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but I need to be involved. And I was a very young girl. And I just have always been drawn to kind of like an evil, dark, you know, like kind of grim aesthetic.
Sweaty man.
So Legend was right there for me. And then I think the first horror movie that I remember watching that I wasn't allowed to watch the shit when I was younger, but I watched Dracula at a friend's house. Her dad had taken us to Kroger, and we convinced him to rent it for us on like VHS and stuff. So
this is
that
Bram
was
Stoker's Dracula?
Yeah, that was my first like actual like full, you know, exposure to everything. Through Dracula, through horror, through gore, through, you know, sensual encounters, through sex, through cannibalism, through just everything. Like Dracula hit me like in my core, and I was like, the Victorian, you know, goth. I was like, all of this is fucking perfect. The werewolf transformation, like, you know, the outdoor scenes, the werewolf under the moon, the crazy monster beast that he is at some points. Just all of it hit me, and I was just so captivated that I wanted to know more. And I think that's what got me into like some of these monster comics that I eventually got into as well.
Did your friend follow you on this journey, or did she turn out all vanilla?
I don't know. Unfortunately with her, like she was kind of one of those quick chapters. I only knew her for like a year or two. Her parents were getting a divorce and she kind of moved away. And my parents had just gotten divorced, which I think was why it was easy for us to hang out, but also easy for us as like 12-year-olds to go rent Dracula from a grocery store. The dad didn't care. That was like, whatever.
What was your first horror comic that you found? Do you remember that?
Legion of Monsters. I'm a huge fan of Werewolf by Night, which is, again, we've talked about werewolves. I love anything that's tied to that. So it's Legion of Monsters was the first thing that I found. I think it was like a Marvel Spotlight, maybe like a 72 or something like that. But it was just the werewolf that I saw on the cover, and I was like, I like that. And then I expanded into, you know, the Frankenstein monster, as well as, you know, Blade, and then of course Ghost Rider and some of these other like teams that came together and stuff.
And were you ever, when you were young and watching Dracula or any other kind of like reading or watching any other horror properties, were you scared? And do you remember being scared, and like how did you deal with that? Or was like, did it cause you nightmares?
Okay, so Dracula didn't get me like scared, and I want to back up because I did watch Ghoulies as a young kid, but Ghoulies did scare me, but I wasn't allowed to watch it. So it was one of those things I just kind of kept to myself. But Ghoulies made me to where like I didn't want to use the toilet for like 6 months. You know, I didn't want to tell my mom that I'd watched this movie I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
And so while Dracula didn't scare me, like Ghoulies did, because the idea of like something like a little fucking shit demon crawling out of the toilet to get me really seemed like that could happen more so than like a vampire. I don't know. Like the gymnastics that my logical brain did as a kid was like, shit demons, yes. Dracula, not scary.
That's the best part about being a kid, right? Is like your imagination's so wide and like anything can happen, but also you're so much more susceptible to believing things that you know, the whole world is magical to you, and it all exists, you know?
Well, you were
I
also,
would not flush a toilet.
you were probably thinking, at least if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, Dracula's in Transylvania. He's not going to come all the way to Texas, right? Like,
yeah, not
so
for
he's
me.
far, far away.
Yeah, at all.
We all have a toilet.
He's not going to cross oceans to come find me in Texas at all. But Ghoulies was the one that really scared me, because I was just certain that, I remember being a young person and like using the restroom and then like jumping and running and being like, someone flash. And just did not want to be in there. And I think I would, as a young person, I also kept the door open sometime after that. I was terrified of Ghoulies.
I have Ozzy, you know, my 2-year-old. And one thing that I've been really enjoying watching, enjoying sounds like the wrong word, but it's interesting, is watching, he's at the age where he's starting to become scared of things. Because like when they're babies, they're just like, whatever,
I don't know.
you know? But now he picks up on like random things in cartoons or whatever. And it's like, in some ways, it almost doesn't matter what it is. Like there's something that you're gonna, in your developmental stage, you're gonna like latch onto as being scary. And for him, it was like ghosts. And I think because he watched a few Halloween themed cartoons where they have like the ghosts with the sheets and they're like, ooh, you know? So he's always like,
Yeah.
when you're putting him to sleep and turn off the lights, and he's like, there's a ghost over there. And I'm like, no, the ghosts live outside. You're fine.
Yeah.
There's
Live
no
outside.
ghosts, you know? And it's really cute in a way, you know, but also really like tragic in another way. It's like we're humans. We're like just bred to be scared of things, you know?
Yeah.
So, also he thinks there's a monster coming from our bedroom, and I think it's because of the snoring.
Oh no, that's kind of wild.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it's funny because we have a little like, you know, baby monitor, and I'm always like, you don't have to worry. Like mom and dad are in there. And so he's always like, he's like, ghosts. He's like, but mama and dada in there. And we're like, yeah, that's right. We're watching you, you know? So,
We're watching you.
yeah. Anyways, kids are a trip, man. They really make you reevaluate and think so much more about when you were a kid in a way I didn't expect, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Taffet, I was
What
going
was
to
your horror experience?
tell you, evil is seductive. And I say that as, and I've probably touched on this in like one of the first episodes, but if you look at like all the cartoons that were hip in the 80s, your He-Man, your, I don't know, Transformers, G.I. Joe, you know, these are, I guess, more male driven, but it's like the villains always looked cooler. You ever notice that? Like,
Oh, for
like
sure.
that.
Bareness?
Yeah.
My
So you're
God.
like, yeah, that's so. I think kids are kind of drawn to that. That curiosity book, the morbidly curious. The author was stating how as kids the games we're playing, tag, hide and go seek, if you know what sheeps and wolves are, ghosts in the graveyard, they're all like predator and prey based games that we have fun playing with. It primes us for, you know, scary things that could happen to you in real life.
Yeah.
So I do think there is some kind of innate thing that draws kids to it, but it also scares you from it, you know?
Right. I mean, it all probably originates from our instincts as animals, you know, in the wild. It's like the flight or fright kind of reactions that are instinctual. Like it's a way probably to develop those, I would imagine.
Right. I know for myself, like my interest in horror comes from a few different things. The first horror movie, and I must have thought it was scary, but I only really specifically remember the skeletons is the end of Poltergeist. I remember like the TV and stuff too. But it didn't, it just kind of, I think, excited me. I was like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. That guy's ripping off his face and whatever. And as an adult, I look back at Poltergeist. So I'm like, no, it's a safe movie. No one in the family dies, right? Like it's the way Lost Boys is. But I was drawn to this stuff, and my mom hated that. And she's so like, parents telling you not to watch something makes me want to watch it. And it's like, well, you're gonna have nightmares. And I'm like, cool. Like, let's see what it's. That becomes a test of bravery.
Right.
So there was that, and it's like I had a cousin who moved to DC that lived with us, Chip, who he was like a jack dude. So later in life, when he took me to Terminator 2, I'm like, you need to put on a leather jacket and sunglasses. But he knew I liked horror movies, so he'd buy me Monster Masks and Fangoria and stuff. So he'd kind of feed that stuff to me. Same with one of my dad's friends. But I always loved it as far back as I remember. So like Ghostbusters, Gremlins, like all these little kid things. I saw Return to Oz in the theater, which is a pretty creepy kids movie. So I was like always into this. And then you have, for our demographic age group, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the scariest looking art ever, you know? And
those books were really cool.
And
it's
so
the highlight of any book fair, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So like the Stephen Gamble's art was just, you know, something I gravitated towards. And I remember I saw Teen Wolf 2 in the theater in, I think, North Carolina when I was a kid. Not a scary movie, but for some reason they had the Prince of Darkness trailer, and I was the only person in the theater. And what scared me the most about it, I think, was the music, just because it was so like heavy and dark. And I was just like, oh, this is evil. Like, so I was like nearly running out of the theater, but I was like also attracted to it. I was like, how can this make me feel this way when I know damn well it's just a movie? But it, you know, I think I even might have been afraid of the dark as a little kid, because I remember a babysitter wouldn't let me sleep with a light on. But I'd rationalize it as, no, I want to I'm comfortable with the light on, but it's probably from watching horror movies too young that like I was like, oh shit, whatever's in there is gonna get me. But then the light goes out and I was like, fine. Another what else? Fuck, I'm like losing my train of thought. Night of the Living Dead was a big one for me. I think I saw that when I was like 9 or 10. And I had already seen all the Elm Streets and, you know, Friday the 13th, because like dressing up like that as a kid for Halloween, you know, these are kind of
when you're a kid, man, Freddy Krueger with the glove,
like the coolest dude ever.
Yeah.
He's like
totally
scary. I remember actually Nightmare on Elm Street being scared of that with my cousin, who would like make me watch it, and then I'd run out of the room and then come back in and be like, I think he got a kick out of that. But yeah, Night of the Living Dead was one because it was black and white, and I was like, this is gonna be some bullshit. And then like 30 seconds in, I'm like hooked and can't stop watching this. And I had a friend, Forhad, who like his family would kind of babysit me, and he had an older brother, so older brother would get all these horror movies, so we'd be watching like Return of the Living Dead 2 was one of them. I know they had Lost Boys, but I don't think I saw it then. So this is like 87 or something like that. So I was always on the hunt to check out horror movies and things that scared me, because it just fascinated me that this could happen. And yeah, then you're hooked. But it's also like in more of a academic way, a positive thing, because I didn't like reading. Like I read your Judy Blume books and all those kids' books, but I remember watching Stephen King movies, and my friend's mom's like, yeah, he's an author. I'm like, what? So my friend, this guy, John, was really a bright kid, and he's reading these dense books. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get them. And I got Night Shift. I'm like, this is way over my head, but like, I want to read it because I want to get scared. I want to see, you know, so that turned me on to reading, is Stephen King at like a youngish age. And when I say young, I mean, I'm probably like 11 or something, you know, I'm not like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
Trying to put down Cujo.
That's like on the early side of, I think, of getting into kind of horror, but also like not like it's like still you know what I mean? Like, I feel like people who are going to like horror, that's kind of when they figured it out. But there's a lot of kids that probably, are still scared of movies till they're like more like 12 or 13, you know?
I'm sure. I mean, this is like also the reason why I like Temple of Doom more than the first one, because I saw that and I was like, horror, you know, like, and I saw that at a young age. And it's one of those things that if you fall in love with it at a young age, you're always chasing it. So you'll go see the movies you don't think are going to be good, just hope to be like recapturing kind of that scare that's damn near impossible to experience.
You know, we're all about the same age. And I wonder what role when you grow up plays in how you experience horror in a way. Because, you know, we basically grew up our youngest years were the 80s. And then, you know, but we're really coming of age in the like kind of like 1990 time frame. But that's like right after the big 80s like horror explosion, and all these movies aren't that old, you know, like all the like Nightmare on Elm Streets and Friday the 13th. And so I think our generation in a lot of ways got exposed to horror. I don't know, like it was, I just feel like it was a little bit more in the zeitgeist at the time.
It was, if you had basic cable, like if you had USA, they'd be playing, you know, Up All Night, or even before that, I guess, Night Flight. They would be playing that's where I saw Night of the Living Dead. And then there would be shows like Tales from the Dark Side, or like even The Twilight Zone or Amazing Stories, which also flirted with that a bit. So yeah, I personally was I was an only child, so the TV was a babysitter for me.
Tales from the Crypt is another
yeah. And we had HBO when that hit, so of course, like my parents go out, and I'm like, all right, here we go.
Totally. See, I had a little more complicated situation because, you know, I was raised Mormon, or in a Mormon family, I should say. So we had a lot more strict, like, kind of protocols around what we could watch. So, you know, I had to be a little bit more, I wouldn't even say like slick about it, because I don't think I was trying to fool anyone, but I just had to like seek it out a little bit, you know? But my earliest memories is actually, I think I was watching, so I always remembered Halloween, like as a holiday. It was always my favorite holiday. And my earliest memories, you know, I have a few here and there, but a couple of them are specifically from Halloween. when I was like really young and going out with my family and, dressing up like a mummy. I think I had like ace bandages wrapped around me or something. um, but I remember this is my earliest kind of a coming, uh, awakening to, I guess, horror. It was one particular Halloween, after trick or treating early, because I was young, probably like 8, came back and watched on the USA network. I think it was one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, but it was a horror film. And I remember actually all the lights were on, but I was like terrified. And I was like hiding behind the chair and like looking, And then I remember my brother coming home with his friends. I have a brother who's 2 years older than me. And they were all going to go to it was like a haunted trail or something. I can't remember exactly. And they let me come. And it was my first sort of like true experience, like kind of like doing a horror thing. And I don't remember being that scared from it, but I remember just like being like the darkness, the sort of like more gothic elements of it, like really appealed to me. And um, I didn't become like a true horror fan, I think, until I was like later in high school, early 20s. But I always kind of liked it. But it did kind of set me up I got really into like sci-fi and fantasy. And that was a little bit more my like tween years. Read fantasy like all the time, but I also kind of gravitated toward the dark aspects of those. But even before I started reading that stuff, I would read R.L. Stein and other and like that book Fear. Do you remember that one? I don't know why, but that sticks out as like the horror book that was like big at the time. And I think I got that from my older, uh, like my mom, who's a lesbian, had a partner when I was like around 8 or 9 who had 4 daughters. And I have an older brother and sister, and we all lived together. So there's like 7 kids in this house. Uh, and some of them were reading R.L. Stein. So like that's how I got introduced to it, was through them. And, what this just goes to show, I think, is that we all kind of get turned on to these things either by happenstance but usually it's through somebody we know who are like, hey, don't tell mom or whatever, but check this out.
Right.
Uh, so that's pretty cool.
Halloween, I think, is a big part of it too, because I mean, yeah, you go play dress up and get candy, but if you have a proclivity towards like dark stuff, you're like, oh, this is my, and you grow up and embrace it, and they have all these movies revolving around Halloween. It's like your Christmas. Yeah. I do remember, like, because I like to go into like amusement parks, and they don't have them so much, but they used to have like the haunted house. And those could be scary to a little kid. Like there was one at Funtown, which is in Maine, and it was like complete darkness, and you go in by yourself. And so like it was scary, but it was more scary not knowing what you're going to experience than what the monster jumps out or whatever. But it was, I remember, being into that as well.
No, it's so true. I kind of wonder how kids today, right, with the internet, like, what's your first interaction with the idea of horror? Because like it probably isn't even a film, right?
Right.
It's probably some creepy pasta or something they've seen like on YouTube
exactly,
at some
like
point
Slender
to where
Man
they're like, God, Slender Man, that dates us.
Well, I do ghost stories ever go out of style? Because that was also part of this for me.
True.
I don't think so. I used to love telling ghost stories back in the day with friends. If we had sleepovers, that was kind of the thing that the girls would do. We'd do sleepovers, and we would get our like Coca-Cola and we'd put coffee grounds in it, something that we saw from like one of the Elm Street movies. And we'd stay up just telling ghost stories to each other, just making up stuff that we could to just kind of make each other feel a little scared. And I think it's interesting because I know people now who don't like horror. They don't watch horror movies. And I don't think it's something that you just pick up like midway through life. I think it's something that, as we're talking about, it's something that calls to us as a young age. And we're like, this is kind of what we like. And for me, because I think in general, there's like a lot of horrors of the world. I think in some aspect, horror offers like that sort of like finality, the masked man, he winds up getting caught and he goes to jail, or the boogeyman gets, slaughtered by the kids at camp or something. There's some, well, I guess maybe not in some of these stories. They have like 10 different, iterations of them. But I think for me, some of these things I like is because like the bad guy does get it in the end. And I think that's kind of the aspect of horror that's kind of fun as well. And I think mainly if you just grew up with it, it's something that you just take with you. It's not something that I think comes to you later in life.
I agree. I do think there is a certain part of the population that just gravitates towards the sort of dark and macabre and like flirting with that. Because really, at the end of the day, right? If I was putting my psychologist hat on here, we're probably all thinking about mortality, right? Like it's this like kind of fascination with mortality, and some people are more comfortable living in that space and are more fascinated by it. Others are like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want anything to do with it.
Right. I wonder what causes that like rift between people that are one way or the other. Like when I look at horror movies, because I was thinking about this, I'm like, I think there's kind of a duality to the genre. On one hand, it can be very immature. It's just like blood, guts, gore, go, go, go. But it can also be very, to kind of a counterpoint to what you're saying, Taffeta. It can be education, like Pet Cemetery really kind of slow rolled me into like, oh yeah, we die. And like try to, there's a big talk between Ellie Creed and her father about like what happens when you pass away, and he doesn't know really what to say to his daughter. So he's like, well, what do you think? And so like there's a maturity to it too, and an honesty that's can be very heavy and eye opening. But if you're watching it as a little kid, it kind of plants a seed at this, and it tells you like, no, it's not always a happy ending. And that might be a reason some people don't want to watch horror movies. But
also true.
I kind of appreciate the honesty of it. There's I don't know if you guys have seen The Last American Virgin, not a horror movie, but it's a great coming of age comedy from the 80s, and it has kind of a dark ending. It's a gut punch, but I was like, that's refreshing because it's not like everyone rides off into the sunset best friends.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that because it's like taking a risk, but there's truth to it too, because it doesn't always end up the way we want it to.
Yeah. Well, and with young people watching horror, I agree with you. You could kind of learn some life lessons, right? Because like in some ways, I feel like it can boost your confidence when you make it through a scary movie when you're young. It's like you kind of build bravery in a way, right? And suddenly the bully maybe doesn't seem so scary if you've survived, Jason at the camp or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of positives. I think parents sometimes maybe, and it's something for me to take away from this, but you want to protect your kids all the time, but like content like this can in some ways be a healthy introduction to like the horrors of the real world in a safe environment,
It can be. I don't know if I had a kid, I don't know where I'd stand as a parent, because I'd be like, I want to share these movies, but that kid's not me. And I don't know if like they're going to be up for it. But I do know parents that do like share their loves with their kids, and the kids eat it up.
Like Rebecca McKendry is always talking about on the podcast about, she brings her 12-year-old to.
Right. I think she's kind of like slow rolled them into like, here's Paranorman, here's Ghostbusters, here's this. And like, you that's probably the best way to do it. But I know my mom like, did not like, she's like, when are you going to outgrow this stuff? Why? And I'm like, it's just part of me. It's not. I remember, this is kind of funny. We had HBO at one point, and she's like, oh, Peter, there's this movie I want you to see called The Lost Boy playing. And like, I look at the TV guide and I was like, oh shit, it's Lost Boys. But I was stupid. And I was like, yeah, of course. It's the one with the vampires. And she's like, okay, you're not watching that. And I was like, oh, I just shot myself in the foot. Like,
that's so funny.
But my dad didn't care. He would sit and watch them with me. He took me to see Elm Street 6 in the theater when I was like Freddy's Dead when I was in 6th grade. So that was cool, because that was kind of the fun thing too, is trying to sneak into R-rated movies. I mean, that's not just horror, but like you're just some 13-year-old kid. It depends who's at the tickets. Like,
I think every kid is different, in terms of what their the age at which it's appropriate for them to see things,
Yeah.
And I do agree with you too, that it's a little bit of like how your parents treat it, right? Like I feel like, when your parents are like, you can't watch that, whatever, even despite your reaction being like, well, I'm going to go see it anyways. But that kind of teaches us to be scared of it, where you're like, oh yeah, it's just pretend, it's fun.
Right.
It's a little scary, but like, you don't have to worry about it. You're not going to get, eaten or whatever. Yeah, actually, I think another thing to, for like you were saying with Legend, which was also something I was introduced at a young age, and loved the whole aesthetic of, what's his name? the character's name of
Darkness.
Darkness, yeah. Which also the way they lit it and like the fire in the background. He just seemed like such a like brooding character. It was pretty dope.
Cool guy.
But the whole movie had a dark tone to it, which is cool. But also along those lines, I remember Dark Crystal, which is a bunch of Muppets. But man, it's and even the remake, it's a dark kind of vibe.
Oh yeah, the Skeksis definitely scared me a lot when I was younger, but in a different way, more so because I had an older brother who was kind of a jerk, and so he would a jerk in a older brother way, and so he would pretend to be a Skeksy, and he would come up behind me and make those noises, and sometimes like tap me and like run away. So he did that to me. But yeah, that Dark Crystal, especially when the life drains from them, when they use that crystal and they just suck out the puppet's face and it's just all hollowed in, even though it's a puppet, that is still creepy too. So yeah,
I don't even know that they really meant it for like young people. I think they were trying to make adult content with Muppets at the time, but I think it was like kind of a lot of us maybe experienced that because it's the parents probably assumed it's like a Muppet movie and it's like probably safer than it was. But man, that had an impact on me.
Well, I mean, Dark Crystal was not Disney, right? But
Henson.
There was Disney had a lot of dark movies in the early '80s. You had Something Wicked This Way Comes, Watcher in the Woods, The Black Cauldron being animation, The Black Hole. I've actually not seen that one.
I saw The Black Hole when I was young, and that was tight, man. That movie was great.
So like there was this that was like thing for kids that were dark, and I remember watching Something Wicked This Way Comes and being very fascinated by it.
I wonder how much of that. I don't exactly remember the year this happened, but they introduced like before there wasn't PG-13, it was just PG or R,
right?
And I kind of wonder how much that played a role into it. Like some things maybe earned PG ratings that probably should have been more like PG-13.
I think Poltergeist might have been PG because I feel like that came out before then. I could be wrong. What I've always heard is it was like the first two were Gremlins and Temple of Doom, but there was a movie that was not horror that got that before the same year. But so I think Spielberg had his hand in that because he's kind of touching on some of these dark things with kids.
Yeah, and I also forgot to mention, but Poltergeist was a very early watch of mine as well. Probably because they just kind of came out at right around the right time for us.
Yeah,
but I mean, it scared me to death.
And that you probably saw it because your parents were like, "Oh, it's PG,"
Yeah, 100%.
And it's Steven Spielberg. He did E.T. Like it's got to be safe, But it's Tobe Hooper who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so who knows what you're getting. And
I also remember The Burbs. Remember that movie?
Yeah. Tom
Hanks. And like Beetlejuice and some of the early like Tim Burton stuff was like,
it was dark, but not too dark. It was like appropriately dark.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but like I had access to arcades, like going to the arcades as a kid, and I mean I played like Double Dragon and stuff like that. But I remember in North Carolina, because that's where my cousins were, there was this game. It was like, what Operation Wolf is? It was like it had one of those built-in machine guns, and you'd just be like the screen. There was one that was like it's an urban landscape, and you're shooting up zombies, and like chunks of their face are flying off, and like stray dogs, and like I was like, this is perfect. It's called Beast Blaster. I found out years ago. So like I think anytime I had access to something like that, I was like, I need to chase it down.
Right.
And obviously, video stores. If you look at the movie cover, like if you have the horror section, that's just wild. That's just like tons of nightmare imagery around. And I know at that age, I was just looking at the things that were scariest or creepiest. But like a movie like Christine by John Carpenter or Rosemary's Baby, I'm not going to watch because I'm like, it looks boring to a kid. It's just a basic image. It's not, I don't see like eyes on fire with like worms falling out of a skull's mouth or whatever the hell it would be. But like,
I got a question for you, Taven. I wonder, Peter and I obviously are very steeped in what it's like to grow up as a boy because we grew up as boys. But like, I wonder what when you're a girl and you grow up, like we have friends and older, either brothers or brother-like figures who maybe like, get us into this stuff. But like, you seem like it's more uncommon, I feel like, right? For girls, younger girls to get into this stuff. Like what was your experience with that? And do you have other friends that were interested in this stuff?
I didn't really find like my friends that were into the same stuff until I got a little bit older, until I actually kind of went to school, because I moved around a little bit after my parents got divorced and I went to some different schools. But my brother was 6 years older than me, so I pretty much like emulated him. I did everything he did. If he was into a certain movie, I was into it. If he was into music, I was into that, just because that's who my influence was. My dad showed me like all the Animal House movies, Ghostbusters and stuff like that, way too young. And my brother showed me the horror stuff that was probably way too young for me as well. And I think that was just kind of it. And I was also one of those people, like, if you told me no, I was going to go do it. So I think that's pretty much just kind of how I found it. But I didn't really have a lot of female friends who were into horror as a young person. Like my best friends as a young person were my parents' best friends' kids. And some of them were like just little weenies. You know?
Yeah.
But I think the one friend that I did eventually find, whenever we moved, I think it was a little bit after, maybe I'd been 13, and she was the one I watched like almost all the stuff with, like all the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, everything I'd already seen. But her and I would do a lot of the Friday night sleepover girl stuff and just watch horror movies and eat junk and stuff. But I think most of mine came from just, again, being influenced by the dudes that were in my life at the time.
Interesting. Do you think that would have changed things? Like, horror movies, particularly in the 80s and 90s, 2000s for that matter. There's I just don't know that there were any that appealed to young women, but I wonder if there are now. Like, do you think that would it make a difference if there were more female villains, or, more female aesthetics or something like that? Do you think it would make a difference?
Maybe. I don't know, because as I mentioned earlier, we have that new Victorian cycle that's coming out,
Yeah.
and then all that one with Tom Hiddleston. What is the one? Crimson Peak. Like, I think even like the baddie in that is a female, actually. Then we've got Only Lovers Left Alive, another Tom Hiddleston gothic one. Yeah, we Tilda Sweden, to where there's some female stuff, but I think maybe that's the appeal, is that there's less of the female villains in some of these movies back in the day that got me into it. So maybe that's why there was a slow going and getting into horror for women.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of women these days who are absolutely into horror that are my age. So I know at the time it was happening, but it was just in different places, I guess.
Right.
Well, also, as a kid, you probably don't pick up on certain things. It's like clear in hindsight. Like the 80s, or even Halloween has a final girl, but you might not look at her as like a heroine as much as like, oh, she survived the nightmare kind of thing. And that might be your takeaway. But now you look at all these movies and you're like, oh yeah, they have this, or they have feminist slants. Even like I Spit on Your Grave, like these really depraved movies.
Yeah.
Well, even the final girls, it's like they spend most of the movie kind of getting beaten up and pushed around and running and hiding and screaming and like
abused.
They usually come around at the end and have like but they're not true heroes in the sense that they're driving the story.
I mean, maybe because I was a little bit older when I saw like Elm Street 3 and 4, but those are like heroines. It's like the girls kind of like musters the power to fight Freddy Krueger. I mean, Nancy did that in the first one, but it was more like they shined a light on their growth.
But that's the point, though, right? Is like, it's like they usually they muster the courage. Like they have to find it instead of it just being innately there. You know what I'm saying? In a way that like,
it's more survival than instinct, maybe. In
exactly.
Some
Whereas like, G.I. Jane, Demi Moore is like just a badass out of the gate. You know what I mean? and like when you talk about
Ripley, I mean, and Sarah Connor,
Ripley in Aliens, and
that's
maybe
fair.
they're more sci-fi. Maybe
she was like
a really horror aspect.
Yeah, very feminist for sure. That's true.
But that was probably no, actually, I think the original draft of Alien, they might not even had names or something. It was like a creative choice. I don't quote me, but this is ringing some kind of bell. But I mean, cool. In the 90s, you did have The Craft, which was like very female driven. And
there was like, I also remember watching the Witches of Eastwick, which isn't super scary necessarily, but it deals with the occult.
Yeah. It's a fun one. Or what's the Death Becomes Her is kind of a Tales from the Crypty. Robert Zemeckis thing.
It's very like old school EC stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And there was, what was that? Is it The Frighteners? Was that
The Frighteners, Peter Jackson with Michael J. Fox?
Is that what I'm not thinking? I didn't think. I think it was what I'm thinking of is the Zemeckis movie. I think was it.
I think isn't that Frighteners? Isn't that?
Oh, maybe, yeah. But was that late '80s, early '90s?
That was like mid '90s, maybe even later. Frighteners with Michael J. Fox and Jake Busey.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a shot in New Zealand.
And arachnophobia is like a terror that lives rent free in my mind. 35 years later.
Yeah, I mean horror is interesting because then it takes like real things and makes them scary. Yeah. Like spiders are already, you either have arachnophobia or you don't. But if you do, this is gonna like amplify the hell out of it.
God, that's the way I just remember. Like when they opened the crate and the like bodies all got the juices sucked out of it, and as a kid I was like, "What?"
That John Goodman, right?
Yeah,
that Morbidly Curious book had an interesting point that's like, I guess, good for screenwriters or authors, is like, if you watch a movie and before you see the monster, you see what it's capable of, kind of like what you're seeing these bodies, it instills like your imagination, like, this thing's really dangerous. And I was like, that's an interesting point because it's going to just kind of build that dread of how bad this thing is that's going to be revealed.
All right. Wow.
Were you guys going?
I was just going to ask if you had any like lingering fears, like were you ever scarred by anything that you saw as a kid or?
I mean, I was like fascinated and scared by spiders as a kid. I remember one of my mom's friends was like, "Yeah, Peter, we went to the Smithsonian. You had this big black tarantula crawling all over your hands." I was like, "I did?" Because there was this dock in Maine and I jumped off it and it was covered in water spiders. And water spiders are not like daddy long legs. They're kind of like a little bit thicker and they have a leg span. So they look like anorexic tarantulas, if you will. And I was like terrified. I was like, they're not going to bite you. But like, I was terrified of it. I was like, I can't get on the dock. It's going to fucking they're going to get me. And it's, dealing with that. But now I know I'm comfortable with spiders, I guess. They still fascinate me because I think with them, it's the fear comes from the mechanics of how they move is not deemed natural in the natural order of how most animals move, and that's what makes them unsettling. Because I was really curious about that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Well, I think they're unsettling because they're a little demon spawn.
Yeah, but they take care of like the mosquitoes and all the other insects that terrorize us.
Yeah, I was a frequenter of a subreddit called, was it Spider Bro or whatever? And it was like, it's just all positive posts about, I found this Spider Bro in my room today. And like,
Spider Bro. Yeah, they're effective in movies too. Like I remember when I saw Home Alone prior, a friend's sister's like, but there was this scene and she wouldn't say what it was. I was like, I know there's going to be a fucking tarantula in this movie. And sure enough, you get Daniel Stern gets it on the face. But did either of you guys have exposure to Fangoria? Was that something that you guys would see at the bookstores or like on the magazine shelves or pick up or
that and like Famous Monsters, I think, were some of the ones that I picked up along with like The Wizard if I was reading some stuff. But it wasn't often that I was able to get the Fangoria stuff because I wasn't allowed to have that as a younger person. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like have a subscription or anything, but whenever I would see an issue, what was interesting is I actually was more into the makeup and stuff.
Right.
Like I thought it was how they made it was almost like more interesting to me than the films themselves. Was Fangoria the one that talked a lot about makeup, like monster makeup, or was there a different magazine?
I'm sure there was Starlog, which was the science fiction kind of version of Fangoria. Fangoria did talk about filmmaking, how behind the scenes and all that, but they would usually be like, all right, here's Pinhead, here's Jason with his mask on, just really things that would be like, whoa, because everything else is like People Magazine or, maybe Sports Illustrated.
Well, when you didn't have the internet back then, that was like the only way that
you're seeing this shocking image. And if you watch those movies, you're like, you'd recognize it. You're like, oh, that's this, or this is coming out. It was kind of like you don't know what movies are being made. Maybe you're not seeing the trailers if you're not in the theater every day. And as a little kid, you're not. So that was how you would discover things too.
Yeah.
But then it was like blocks of words, and I was like, I don't read this. I just kind of want to flip through it and be like, that's scary. That's cool looking.
Yeah.
Until I got a little bit older. But yeah, I would love when I'd see Fangoria. Or there's also Gore Zone, which was like the other spinoff of, maybe it wasn't a spinoff, but it was similar to Fangoria.
Yeah, I also, Taffeta, this is more your realm, but I also was into comic books around that time, and I definitely gravitated towards like some of the darker comic books. For me, I was an Image kid, so I was like really into like Spawn and, the Max and Pit. And the Max wasn't that dark, but the Pit was kind of dark at times. And, I just remember like the aesthetic of it. In fact, that's why I kind of preferred Image over Marvel and DC and stuff. Cause to me, it was like, it felt a little darker and more adult or something. But.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if you're reading Spawn, if you're going from reading maybe say like X-Men to Spawn, there's definitely a high contrast there.
Yeah, totally. And just this idea of this like cursed soul, like as a superhero is like pretty dope.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So one other thing that I remember thinking was pretty creepy, and I don't know how I saw this because it's not a movie, but I think it was like the first thing Frank Darabont shot, and it was The Woman in the Room, Stephen King story that was kind of about his mother's death. And like the character has a nightmare in a hospital that he's by himself, and his mother's like a skeleton, but it was pretty scary. And that
interesting.
That is something that I remember at that age being like, holy fuck. And so like when I would see Pet Sematary, or I have this theory that I think women characters in horror movies are scarier. Like Zelda in Pet Sematary is like,
meningitis scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, like that
because of that.
But like Witches, there was The Lady in White, though it's kind of a kid's movie. It's like, this is scary, this woman, because women are supposed to be pretty and feminine. Here they are looking like skeletons, and
and nurturing, right? Like they're like the safe spot for when you're a kid. It's
right.
Like your mom
but it extends to like, Reagan being possessed in The Exorcist, or Samara from The Ring, there's just like a trend. I always notice that, and I'm like, those are usually Woman in the Room and The Shining, right? Like there's these, I think those are like the scariest things in that like kind of supernatural, like goose flesh, spine tingling way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think maybe that's a good place to leave it. This has been a great conversation. I really kind of enjoyed the sort of free-flowing nature of it.
Yeah. And Christopher, you're going to have to keep us posted on Ozzy's like education into this.
I will.
When he's like,
you could be the dad friend that slyly like slides the like Fangoria issue over to him. Or whatever.
Heather would kill me. I could look at my tattoos and be like, what's that?
True. It's a roadmap of like how to get into horror. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.
See you later.
Good.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Nightmare Logic. So I want to apologize for getting out a couple days late. I have been sick all week, which you can actually hear in the recording. And I also had a lot of projects, so I just finished editing it right now. You can check out our website at nightmarelogic.net for today's show notes, and follow us on Instagram at nightmarelogicpod. We'd like to give a big shout out to our composer Lars Lang Peterson for the score, and we hope you tune in next week. Until then.